Today my group will be covering the Code of Conduct and special provision relating to interior designers. For compliance with acts and rules, you must submit the name of your IDCP to get the board's approval. Letterheads, calling cards, and signboard should comply with the guidelines stated. These are the examples. These are the discharge of duties and obligations of an ID or IDCP. As an interior designer, we need to maintain the standard of our service. The employer must ensure that staff are competent and supervised. An ID should administer the contract impartially. And he should only undertake services within his knowledge, abilities, and resources. We should also exercise a reasonable standard of skills and diligence in work. The ID should notify the client in writing of the condition of engagement. As an ID, he should act with integrity, that he should not engage in any business which will conflict with their duties. Below are those an ID shouldn't be doing. An interior designer can publish of consent to the publication if meets the guidelines written below. And these are what an interior designer can do. As an interior designer, he should respect the interests and rights of others. He should not supplant other parties under this act who is already engaged by the client previously. If he is taking over a project from other interior designer, he should obtain a letter of release from him or the client. The ID can accept remuneration for the services provided, even he is a director of a company. And an interior designer should always act honorably to those who are registered under this act. Under Architects Act, only registered ID can set up their own company and entitled to describe himself as an interior designer. He can recover fees for any services he provides as an ID. To register, you need to submit required particulars to the board. This application is only open to GID, ID, and IDPC. You need to apply and paying the necessary fee. Only those who meet the terms and conditions are allowed to register as an interior designer. An unregistered interior designer are prohibited from recovering in any fees for services rendered as an ID. He shouldn't provide any interior consultancy services as well. All applications of registration as an IDCP shall be made to the board accompanied by the prescribed fee. The application will be approved if the sole proprietor is an ID, or all the partners are ID, or if the body corporates meets any conditions below. Applicant should inform the board with a report if any changes occurred within 30 days after the changes. If the disciplinary committee finds that the applicant breached the terms and conditions, they will give a written notice to the IDCP with appropriate order. The committee will make order until a hearing is being conducted by the committee or the company has been given an opportunity to be heard. The disciplinary committee shall not make an order on the previous matter if on the date of hearing, if the IDCP satisfies the following. The IDCP should inform the registrar of any changes of the business. Before cancellation, the board will appoint a person to investigate the complaints and conduct a hearing. The possible penalties are as per below. The ID will only be penalized after hearing is being conducted by the board, unless he is convicted in any fraud. The ID will be removed from the register if he meets any of the terms below. And if the ID reinstatement appeal has been approved, a certificate will be issued to him, and it should be done within 5 years after such removal. For those who did not appeal of the removal or the appeal was dismissed, can apply for reinstatement within 2 years with supporting documents and prescribed fees. After being removed from the registration, the ID should surrender the certificate within 14 days after being notified by the board. These are additional codes of ethics which are not stated in both documents and which an ID should comply with and following it. And that's it for our presentation. Thank you for listening.